Happening now, breaking news, escalating threats. President Trump says the U.S. will hit Iran, quote, very hard tonight, and that he's going to take an Iranian island that's a key oil hub. Plus, more bad news about inflation. A brand new report shows businesses are feeling the pinch, too. So how soon could their costs trickle down to you?
And at any moment now, the U.S. Supreme Court will release decisions. There are several major cases before the justices, including birthright citizenship, whether President Trump can fire federal officials, and transgender sports bans. And later, a comeback for the ages. The Knicks rally in the final few seconds from a 29-point down deficit to beat the Spurs in Game 4. Welcome to our viewers here in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer with Pamela Brown, and you're in the Situation Room.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We begin with the breaking news, major breaking news. The United States and Iran are trading new rounds of attacks right now, and President Trump says a third round is on the way. Just hours from now, here's what he told Fox News just minutes ago.
Yeah, there will be more bombing tonight. It'll be bigger, more powerful. Don't forget, we've knocked out all of their anti-aircraft. They don't have any they have nothing. I mean, they may get lucky with a shoulder weapon or something, but for the most part, you know, they have no defense.
What did the representative say in your phone call with them?
Excuse me. They're finished. But the papers, the media refuses to write it. They're finished. We can walk in there tomorrow. We could take soldiers. I don't want to have boots on the ground, but if I wanted to, we could put a small group of soldiers and take over the whole place. They're finished.
Also this morning, the president posted on Truth Social that he would like to seize Iranian oil assets, and I'm quoting him now. At some point in the not too distant future, we will be taking Karg Island and other oil infrastructure points and assume total control of their oil and gas markets, end quote. CNN's Elena Trine is over at the White House. First, Elena, you have some new reporting, I understand, that this plan for Karg Island has been drawn up for months now. What's the latest?
Yeah, look, I mean, this is just a remarkable statement, from the president, specifically what you mentioned about this idea of previewing a potential plan in the not too distant future, Trump's words there, to capture Karg Island. This is something the Pentagon has drafted up, a plan that they have had now for months. But Pentagon officials and Trump administration officials have told us, me and our colleague Natasha Bertrand, that the potential risk of such an operation is almost too risky, and that's why they haven't moved forward with it previously. That's in part because Karg Island, which I should note, it's a critical island. It's 5-mile stretch right off the Iranian coast. It is responsible for roughly 90% of Iran's crude exports. But an operation to try and capture it or to wipe out its energy infrastructure, we're told, would likely require ground troops, significant ground troops, and also potentially could have heavy casualties. These are things that officials have told me they have communicated to the president. I do want you to listen because the President Donald Trump addressed this in this interview with Fox News and essentially said he's long had this preference but wasn't sure if Americans could stomach it. Listen.
You know, look, my preference has always been take Karg Island. I said my preference would be that. I don't know that America has the stomach for it, to be honest with you. You're going to make a fortune. But I don't know that America has the stomach. I think they'd like to see us come home.
So as you could hear there, he's kind of nodding to the fact that this would require ground troops, something the president and his top administration officials have been really reluctant to do thus far. So look, we'll see. I think, one, it's also fascinating that he's even previewing these plans at all. I think it goes to show just how frustrated and impatient he is growing with the Iranians, and also with, as you played in that clip earlier, Wolf, with the media. The coverage of what he argues is not strong enough, portraying the U.S. as strong enough and perhaps portraying Iran as too strong. That is something I'm told as well that has been frustrating to him behind the scenes. So look, we'll have to see whether or not he's really using this as leverage to force Tehran to the table, and if he believes that it could work. Unclear if the Iranians agree with that, that assumption at this point, Wolf.
Yeah, very sensitive moment indeed. We'll see if the U.S. and Iran are both on the potential for a full-scale war resuming right now. Elena Trine at the White House, thank you very, very much. Pamela.
And it was just earlier this month, Wolf, that Trump said that the U.S. doesn't need to put boots on the ground in Iran. So you have that. I want to go now over to Iran. That's where we find our CNN senior international correspondent, Frederick Pleitgen. He's in Tehran. Now, we should note that CNN operates in Iran only with the permission of the government, but maintains full editorial control of its reports.
First of all, the Iranians are completely denying that they called President Trump last night and demanded an end to these strikes. Several Iranian news agencies and official channels also saying that that simply is not true. And then as far as negotiating through bombing is concerned, that's also something where Iranian officials are saying that bombing is going to achieve exactly the opposite of what the president wants it to achieve. I actually spoke to a senior Iranian official just a couple of hours ago, and he told me that from the Iranian perspective, they believe that the Trump administration needs to respect the resilience of the Iranians, also needs to respect the military capability of the Iranians as well, specifically looking at the Strait of Hormuz. And I asked that official whether or not there was a chance that the two countries would go back to war. And he said it all depends on the Trump administration right now. If they want to make a deal, if they stop firing, then there can be a deal. However, if they continue to bomb Iran, then a full-on war and a return to full-on war is certainly something that is fairly possible. So right now, certainly these negotiations still in a very difficult state. On their perspective, have said that this was a serious breach of the ceasefire, what happened last night and the night before. At the same time, both sides are still saying that they want to move towards that memorandum of understanding, which we have to say is just the next step in these negotiations. That would end the hostilities between the two countries and then lead to a period of larger negotiations for a possible full peace agreement. But again, right now, especially after what happened last night, it seems a little bit more difficult. But certainly from what was also going on here overnight, we certainly had a busy night here in Tehran. It certainly seems as that diplomatic process is still on. One of the things that happened was that during these overnight hours, even as the bombing was going on, there was a team of Qatari negotiators here on the ground in Tehran trying to move that process forward. Those negotiators have now left. We're going to wait and see whether or not much progress was made on that. Certainly, again, the Iranians are saying they're up for a deal. But at the same time, if the U.S. keeps pressing and especially dropping bombs, it will have exactly the opposite effect.
All right, Fred Pleitgen in Tehran, thanks so much. Wolf?
Important to have him on the scene over there. CNN political and national security analyst David Sanger is joining us right now. He's also a correspondent for the New York Times. David, first of all, what's your reaction to this new reporting about Trump wanting to take over Cargill? And let me read once again what he posted on social media. At some point in the not too distant future, we will be taking Cargill and other oil infrastructure points and assume total control of their oil and gas markets, much like we have with Venezuela, which is working out brilliantly for both Venezuela and the United States of America. What's your point that he's comparing Iran now to Venezuela?
Look, Wolf, the president's compared the Iran conflict to Venezuela consistently since it started in late February. And it's an analogy that I think we've learned time and again simply doesn't apply. Venezuela is a small country of a few million people, fairly contained in size. Oil resources are in a fairly contained area that we know well. Iran's a country of 93 million people, a vast country, and the idea that the U.S. could go in and control that infrastructure without having people on the ground, it's hard to imagine. As for Cargill, telegraphing this seems strange. Imagine, Wolf, if we at CNN or at the New York Times had written, they'll take Cargill in the next X number of hours, probably some government would charge us with violating American national security. So there is some question about how seriously to take this, in part because while the United States could grab Cargill, holding it would be very difficult, and the Iranians could easily cut off the oil supply that is going to Cargill.
You know, David, you make an important point. If some lower level official, an intelligence official or a national security official, were publicly announcing that the U.S. is getting ready within a few hours to take over Cargill and all the plans are in place already, that person could be arrested potentially for undermining national security, releasing classified information in advance of a major military operation, right?
Right. Now, the president's an original classifier, which means he can declassify and say anything he wants. But certainly, if he's serious about taking Cargill, it seems like he may have made life more difficult and perhaps jeopardized the operation. If he isn't serious about it, well, then he will have made a claim that the Iranians would conclude was not, in fact, viable. And, you know, the whole thing is underscored, Wolf, by this concept that if you threaten the Iranians, you will get an agreement more quickly, or if you bomb them, you will. And he tried that experiment for 38 days, and it did not actually result in making much progress in the negotiations. Now, we reported the other day the details of where those negotiations now stand. And while certainly they have not closed up everything, it's not as if they've made no progress at all.
What do you make of Trump also now conceding that Americans might not necessarily have what he called the appetite to take over Iran's Karg Island?
Well, that's interesting because I think what he's saying is Americans don't have the appetite for having troops on the ground and thus taking casualties. So far, there have been, I think, 13 or 14 casualties, all quite lives lost, quite tragic. But as the president himself has said, it has been a relatively low casualty operation. If you move to Americans on the ground occupying Iranian space, it's hard to imagine. It's already an unpopular war. And I think the Iranians are betting, rightly or wrongly, the president's not willing to take that risk.
We'll see what happens. David Sanger, as usual, thank you very, very much, Pamela.
All right, Wolf still ahead. President Trump facing backlash for saying this about inflation.
You know what I really love? I love the inflation.
And now new numbers shed light on what inflation is actually doing to the economy. You're in the Situation Room, and we'll be right back. Well, President Trump is reacting to the news that Americans are paying the highest prices in 3 years. Here's what he said about the latest consumer inflation numbers.
I love the inflation. You know why? Because as soon as this war is over, I can say it now. Something you didn't know. Do you know we've been taking out millions of barrels of oil? I think they're going to want to make a deal, but we're going to find out.
Inflation to come down between now and
when the war is over?
Yes.
It's coming down.
I know you can't.
It's going to come down like a rock.
So the president says he loves inflation, the inflation that's happening right now. But lawmakers on Capitol Hill, they have a different take.
To folks at home, they say, our prices are too high. We need some relief. And Congress can deliver some relief. And if Congress doesn't deliver the relief, I think voters are not going to be pleased.
People often vote their pocketbook. Inflation is as big an issue to voters as any other issue. Probably as high as any issue, to maybe even include their personal safety. That generally trumps inflation. But yeah, it's obviously a factor.
And all this comes as we have a brand new look at wholesale inflation this morning. So let's go straight to CNN Business senior reporter David Goldman. So David, explain these wholesale numbers to us and why they matter to the everyday consumer.
Yeah, certainly not a lot to love about inflation today or yesterday. So this wholesale inflation number that came out, that is what businesses pay, right? So those prices are going up too. It's not just consumer prices, it's also what wholesalers take in and sell to other businesses before eventually they make it to consumers. Now, this is not a great number because 6.5% is the highest that we've had since 2022. And then when we get into 2022 comparison territory, well, what are we talking about? We're talking about when prices went all the way up, when we had that inflation crisis that led to 40-year highs in inflation. We don't want to be anywhere close to comparing anything to 2022. But the thing is, there is a little bit of good news. Most of why inflation is rising is because of energy prices. And remember, we're always in the economy looking just a little bit backward. This is the May report. We're in June now, obviously. Now, energy prices have come down significantly since this report was issued. Oil prices are down more than 15%. Gas prices have fallen for 21 straight days. So that is good news, and it means that this month's report that will be issued in July might have some better news for us. However, this is the big but, right? There's always that. We need to get that Strait of Hormuz reopened to make sure that oil can start flowing again to keep those prices lower. If we don't get that, there is reason to believe that oil and gas could start rising again, and that is the opposite of loving anything about inflation, Pam.
Always the but, as you say. Just a quick follow-up question. You heard the president there say he loves the inflation and seemed to release this secret that the U.S. has been taking all of this oil from Iran. Can you help us just better understand that and how that fits into the overall picture here?
Yeah, my colleague Matt Egan has been so strong on this, and he's talked a lot about how the Strait of Hormuz is almost leaking oil, right? There are these ships that turn their transponders off, and they make a run for it, and they've been getting out of the strait. And actually, almost 2 million barrels of oil a day has been escaping the Strait of Hormuz. That has helped to keep oil prices lower. But Iran today said, well, we're not going to let any ships out. The United States disputes that. So what's really the case? It almost doesn't matter because we have lost close to 15 million barrels of oil a day. And until we get back to that number, until the strait fully reopens, we're still in this energy crisis.
All right, David Goldman, thank you so much as always. Wolf?
Thank you.
We've got the first up-close look at the UFC octagon on the south lawn of the White House, while new court documents submitted by the Trump administration reveal the events scheduled through the weekend will cost more than $60 million. CNN senior White House reporter Betsy Klein explains.
Well, Wolf and Pamela, in normal circumstances, building a televised sporting event that can accommodate up to 100,000 people without any existing arena infrastructure is a massive production. But doing that at the White House adds many layers of challenge and complication. It cost $60 million, took 900 subcontractors, and months of close coordination between the UFC and the highest levels of the U.S. government. And when the president first announced this fight in Iowa last July, he said there would be about 25,000 people. A year later, that number is up substantially. And according to new court documents released by the Trump administration responding to a lawsuit to stop this fight, they are expecting about 125,000 people spread out across the Ellipse and the White House South Lawn watching the fight card on Sunday. Now, the documents more broadly reveal that this has been a major production and undertaking for the UFC, bolstered by that support from the federal government. Building that arena from the ground up with the claw and the octagon and multiple days of programming planned, all culminating in this televised fight on Sunday, which is President Trump's 80th birthday. It's cost the UFC that $60 million in preparation for production, labor, construction, and promotion, while the federal government is supporting things like first aid and security. Now, this load-in and build process began on May 20th. And since then, every day, 20 to 30 trucks filled with UFC equipment have come here to the White House to be screened before going in and building that setup. Now, that has also required significant security features, including bike racks and anti-scale fencing, and also planning for other details like food and beverage, as well as the requirement that there be at least one porta potty for every 300 guests. Now, as quickly as it came up, it's all going to be torn down. According to those documents, the breakdown will begin on Monday morning. Wolf and Pamela.
All right, Betsy Klein reporting from the White House for us. Betsy, thanks very much. And Pamela, you and I later today will be heading over to the White House for a little tour, a walk and talk, if you will, around there, and we'll broadcast that tomorrow.
We absolutely will. A lot has changed since we covered the White House back in the day, Wolf.
True.
All right, a historic comeback. The New York Knicks closed a 29-point gap in Game 4 of the NBA Finals last night to beat the San Antonio Spurs. They are now just one win from clinching the team's first title in 53 years. Fans, as you see right here, took to the streets of New York to celebrate, and even this subway conductor got in on the fun.
Go New York, go New York, go. That's what we heard. Now let's go to CNN sports anchor Andy Scholes right now. Andy, what an amazing game. It continued almost till midnight last night. I assume you were up, I was up, we were all watching that game.
Oh yeah, Wolf and Pam, this was a game you had to see to believe, right? I mean, it was one of the most incredible things I've ever watched. It was absolutely nuts, and making the drama even more amazing, right, was all the A-list celebrities that were there courtside just experiencing it all. And, it was not a party, though, in MSG early on, as the Spurs had the largest halftime lead by a road team in NBA history. They didn't lead by 29 in the third quarter, but this Knicks team is proven they're never out of a game, no matter what. OG Anunoby was incredible. This three here cut the Spurs lead to 4. Taylor Swift, the Haim sisters, and Mariska Hargitay just jumping up and down, going crazy. Under 2.5 to go. Jalen Brunson hits this three in Wemby's face, and at the bottom of the screen, you can still see Swift and her buddies jumping up and down, as was everyone else. The Knicks were then down 1, under 30 seconds to go. Brunson drives, his shot here doesn't go. The ball gets tipped out, and this is a play that's going to haunt Spurs fans forever. Instead of dribbling it out, De'Aaron Fox, he went for a layup, got blocked by Anunoby. Then after a timeout, 5 seconds left, Brunson three, no good, but Anunoby like a superhero, flying in, tips it in with 1 second left to give the Knicks the lead. MSG going absolutely bonkers. Look at the faces. Jerry Seinfeld in disbelief, David Zasloff, Larry David were in shock. The Knicks will then hold on to win, completing the largest comeback in NBA Finals history. They take a 3-1 lead in the series. So Anunoby, he was going nuts afterwards too, right? And he was a little more laid back.
It feels cool. I mean, everyone's pretty excited. I'm excited too.
This is a testament to them. You know, the grit, the resiliency, the way of New York. You know, and we, from the mud, found a way to get it done in the second half. And if anyone who lives in New York knows, if you want to make it in the city, you got to be okay getting out the mud. And we did that tonight.
Yeah, the U.S. men's national team also celebrating the win. So Tyler Adams, he's a huge Knicks fan, so they were all going crazy during the comeback. The team is set to kick off their World Cup journey tomorrow against Paraguay in Los Angeles. That one kicks off at 9 p.m. Eastern. And Pam and Wolf, the World Cup kicks off in just a little bit. Mexico and South Africa, 3 Eastern from Mexico City. What a week for sports. NBA Finals is amazing. The Stanley Cup Final has been amazing. And now we've got the World Cup kicking off. I mean, boy, you're in for
nothing better for sports.
If you love sports, this is the time to be watching and enjoying every single minute, every second for that matter. Andy Schultz, thank you very, very much, Pamela.
I can't get over that. Like you said, like a superhero. Just came in at the last second. Wow. All right, just ahead here in the Situation Room, round 2. Will not seek the death penalty in a plea deal with a man charged with killing the top Democrat in the Minnesota House, along with the attempted murder of a state senator. Vance Belter is expected to plead guilty next hour. He is charged with killing Melissa Hortman and her husband, along with shooting and injuring John A. Hoffman and his wife back in 2025. Well, several states are bailing ahead of the Great American State Fair. Officials from Oregon, Washington, and North Carolina say they declined an invitation from the Trump administration to showcase their states at the giant fairgrounds being built on the National Mall. Washington and North Carolina say their decision is largely based on the cost. While a spokesperson for Oregon's governor pointed to concerns about the growing partisan nature of the event. And boaters off the coast of England helped rescue a dog lost at sea. They joined the search after hearing a Coast Guard call for help. They eventually found the inflatable kayak with the German Shepherd still on it and got the pup to safety. He was later reunited with his owner, so a very happy ending there.
Makes me happy, too, just to see that. Thank you. There's more breaking news we're following. President Trump clearly escalating his threats against Iran this morning. He posted just a short time ago that the United States will hit Iran, and I'm quoting him now, very hard tonight. His words, very hard tonight. And we'll be taking, and he says the U.S. will be taking Iran's key oil hub, Karg Island, in the not-too-distant future. Once again, his words. The two nations traded strikes for the second straight night while mediators from Qatar were in Tehran to help with U.S. talks. CNN Global Affairs commentator and former Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh is here with us in the Situation Room. What's your reaction, Sabrina, to this new post from the president saying the U.S. will take Karg Island very, very soon?
Well, a few things on this post. One, this post is incredibly unhinged and incredibly dangerous. It is previewing U.S. military action before it actually takes place, which puts the lives of our pilots at risk and our Navy and Marine, our sailors and Marines who are operating in that area of responsibility just outside of Iran. So previewing military action before it's actually happened, one, you're losing the element of surprise, and two, you're putting our troops at risk. But two, you'll remember just a few weeks ago, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, said the war has concluded. This is clearly not the case. As we're seeing, I mean, the ceasefire is not holding. We're back at kinetic action. So I think, to say that the war is even concluded back then was a silly statement, and now it's proven so, even more so. But the third thing here about Karg Island, taking Karg Island would require so many capabilities and resources that the U.S. is continuing to draw down every single day, including long-range capabilities. And it's not just taking Karg Island, which we know is the crown jewel of Iran's oil hub and exporting. It's also holding Karg Island. Essentially, our military would have to hold that, and it would require an incredible ground force that would basically be sitting ducks for Iran to target if they have to, for however long they have to hold that island.
Because Trump in his post, he said the United States will be hitting hitting Iran very hard tonight. He's giving specific national security classified information, releasing it publicly. And then he goes on to say at some point in the not too distant future, we will be taking Karg Island and other oil infrastructure points. Now, you were a senior Pentagon official.
Right.
If you had said that publicly, outlining a U.S. military operation involving U.S. troops in advance and giving the enemy, in this particular case Iran, advance warning about a specific military operation, what would have happened to you?
I mean, I think I would have probably been fired. I think, we would always have issues when it came to, media outlets reporting on actions that hadn't been taken, even though we were, leaning in that direction. It's incredibly dangerous to signal to the enemy that, one, when you're going to conduct strikes and potential targets. And so the fact that it's the President of the United States doing that not only just puts our men and women in uniform at risk, it is just so unprecedented. I could not imagine Secretary Austin or President Biden doing something like this and not having just such tremendous bipartisan blowback. And I'm not really seeing that today from the Republican Party right now.
And if you had done that, I don't think you would have just been fired. I think you could have wound up potentially in jail.
I think I would have faced charges.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right, I want to take a break for a second. The Speaker of the House is now speaking about the future of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA as it's called. This is significant. I want to listen to what he's saying.
Well, I don't know if the American people just saw what happened on the floor, but it is shameful and it is very, very dangerous. Let me just tell you what's happened here. Today, we just offered a simple, clean 3-week extension of the FISA national security law. The Democrats, 199 of them, voted against a clean 3-week extension for political purposes. And when the bill went down, they applauded. They applauded it. That record and that video is going to live in infamy. I pray that we do not have a serious calamity on our shores over the next few weeks. We have done everything we possibly can. House Republicans are trying to govern. We're trying to keep the American people safe. On April 29th, we passed a 3-year extension of the FISA national security law. It has been sitting over in the Senate, and because the Democrats in the Senate are playing political games as well, they're unable to pass it. So we did everything within our power to try to ensure that this statute does not expire, and the Democrats are using it as a political hostage. Now, this is their custom in the 119th Congress. This is what Democrats do right now. You will remember that earlier this year, they took the Department of Homeland Security, 2 of its most important agencies, and turned those into hostages. They shut down the government. They shut down TSA agents and border security and cybersecurity capabilities and the Coast Guard. Why? Because they were insistent that we no longer secure the national border. They wanted to give $0 to that. And they were insistent that we do not continue to remove criminal, illegal aliens from American communities to keep the American people safe. That is what the current Democrat Party stands for in Washington. They are willing to jeopardize the safety and the security of the American people to make a cheap political point. Now, Hakeem Jeffries is Democrat leader in the House. They put out a statement this morning saying that what is their reason? What is their excuse for this? Their excuse is that they're upset about a very temporary appointment that the President of the United States has already said would be very temporary in nature while he searches for and selects a new director of national intelligence. That is an important process that takes some time and thought and deliberation, and the President of the United States has the right, the ability, the responsibility, the duty to do that well. He has a lot going on right now, as we all know, and the President is deliberate about that. I spoke with him less than an hour ago about it. He is very close to a decision, and the Democrats know that, but they see this as a political moment that they can somehow score political points. It is detestable, it is dangerous, it is going to jeopardize the safety and security of the American people. We all know what's going on around the country right now. We're hosting the World Cup, FIFA. We have big soccer matches all around the country, 11 cities around America. We have the America 250, Freedom 250 events going on here in the Capitol and all around the country. There are large sporting events, local communities. Those things are in jeopardy right now because the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act is exactly what the name implies. It is how we monitor terrorists who are plotting and planning dangerous events in the country, in our homeland. The reason we have not had a mass casualty event like 9/11 since that great tragedy is because we have this statute. And today, the Democrats in the House just voted it down. 199 of them voted against it, and they applauded. They applauded when the statute went down. I think that speaks for itself. I'll take a couple questions.
Mr. Speaker, you've spoken about the importance of FISA and protecting the homeland and the important tool it is to the intelligence community. Given that, is it time for President Trump to pull back his appointment of Bill Pulte and choose somebody else to let this important, critical tool be?
The President of the United States is fulfilling his responsibility. The President has named someone who would serve for a very short period of time while he seeks a new director of national intelligence. The responsibility, the questions are for the Democrats in the House and Senate, why they're willing to jeopardize the lives of millions of Americans to make a political point, because they have a disagreement about someone that the president has appointed for a short-term position. It is absurd. There is no way to defend it. And all the questions, and everybody in the Capitol Hill press should be chasing every Democrat before they go get on planes and leave, so proud of themselves that they just jeopardize the safety of every American citizen. I'm going to be praying that we do not have an event on our shores. There will be a lot to answer for if we do.
Why should Congress have a vote in what is clearly an escalating situation with Iran, with the president now threatening going after the oil infrastructure? Why shouldn't Congress vote on this?
The Operation Epic Fury was an epic success. It achieved the desired ends, the very specifically and limited objectives of that operation as were articulated at the time. Right now, the president has been trying to broker a peace and get the Strait of Hormuz reopened. All of the nations of the world have an interest in that, most more than us. And we have called upon our NATO allies and the Arab states in the region and the neighboring states there to assist in this very important endeavor to get the Strait of Hormuz reopened. The president is negotiating a peace, and the Iranians continue to provoke us. As you know, they sent a drone into one of our two of our pilots. We're flying one of our helicopters, one of our jets. They're firing on us all the time. The helicopter, as you know, the president describes it. This drone lodged into the middle of where they were flying it, and they had to take the thing down into the water to put the fire out. Miraculously, they survived. We have the greatest military equipment of any fighting force on the planet. But that was a very provocative thing for Iran to do. And the president felt, he's the commander-in-chief, and his top advisors at the Pentagon, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they felt that it required a proportional response. Right now, they are working to have that situation resolved, and they're doing the best they can. And we have negotiators over there, our envoys, who are working around the clock to bring this to a conclusion. But the Iranians have shown, at least for the time being, that they're unwilling to do that. And so we are hopeful that that works out. We have to allow the space to do it. We're about 100 days into this conflict, and the Congress has to allow the commander-in-chief to do what it is he's doing. So we'll see how that goes. Yes.
Is there any scenario where you would bring the House back before the recess?
No, the question has just been asked, would I bring everyone back to vote on FISA again? I'm going to ask you to answer the question yourselves. What would be the point? We passed a 3-year extension on April 29th. It is sitting in the hopper over there as a live bill. Just now, I attempted to pass a short-term extension for 3 weeks, clean extension, no changes to the law. Just make sure that the people are not subjected to great harm. And the Democrats, 199 of them, voted against it and applauded themselves as they left the building. What would be the point of me going through this exercise over and over? The House has done every single thing. The House Republicans have stood and led for the safety and security of the American people, and the Democrats are playing political games. The questions are for them. So I think I've told you everything you need to know.
All right, there's the Speaker of the House. Sabrina Singh is with us still. Very quickly, Sabrina, the Democrats voted against this because they don't trust the acting director of national intelligence, Bill Pulte, a housing official leader who doesn't know much or doesn't have any experience in intelligence or national security for that matter. And they were concerned that he was using mortgage information, housing information to go after critics of President Trump. And now they're concerned that he could use some of the most sensitive national security intelligence information to go after some of the critics of President Trump. And that's why they didn't want to renew the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which Bill Pulte, the acting director, would have access to.
That's right. I mean, what Democrats are doing is using their power right now in government to basically say, we reject your acting appointee of the Office of Director of National Intelligence. I think this was a self-inflicted wound by the Trump administration, installing someone like that who has no national security experience, has no experience in the intelligence community, comes from a housing background. And what Democrats and actually Republicans, some Republicans, are fearful is the weaponization that you put someone like this in power and they're going to go after Trump's perceived so-called enemies. And that's why you're seeing a rejection of the Section 702 of the FISA reauthorization, because Democrats are saying, we cannot have this person running our intelligence apparatus. We actually need a Senate-confirmed individual, someone with the expertise that can not only advise the president, but keep Americans safe. And this is not that person.
Someone who also has security clearances,
right,
which Bill Pulte doesn't have.
Right. And there were 7 Republicans in the Senate that voted against it. This was the 3-year authorization of FISA, so a little bit different. But I think that that's notable as well because of the concerns about Bill Pulte. And also some of the Republicans said that they were concerned it didn't have better reforms to protect Americans. I want to go to CNN congressional correspondent Lauren Fox. Lauren, Democrats had been saying for a while that this was going to be their move, right?
Exactly. I mean, they've been warning for weeks after the announcement that Bill Pulte had been appointed to that interim post. Mark Warner, who's the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, he actually went to the Republican leader in the Senate, John Thune, and made it clear to him that he had a problem on his hands, that Democrats do support authorizing FISA and ensuring that Americans are protected. But he argued to Thune that Bill Pulte was an issue for Democrats. And typically, you would not have much room as a lawmaker to stop the president from making an interim appointment. But timing is everything here. And as Sabrina pointed out, the fact that you had Bill Pulte named just days before this expiration date gave Democrats a political position where they felt like they could have an impact on Donald Trump. We should note that Speaker Johnson has been at the White House over the course of the last 2 days trying to figure out a path forward on FISA. Obviously, what is clear today is that he's sending the House home. They're not planning on coming back until there is further action or a sign that Democrats are going to change their mind. Pam?
যাবার সে সময় কেন তাকালে চলে যাবার সে সময় কেন তাকালে মিষ্টি মুখে চোখের চাউনি আমাকে পাগল করেছে পাগল করেছে মেয়েটি আমাকে পাগল করেছে চলে যাবার সে সময় কেন তাকালে মাটিতে পা ফেলবে সে মাটির ধুলো হয়ে থাকবো গায়ে জড়িয়ে যেই মাটিতে পা ফেলবে সে মাটির ধুলো হয়ে থাকবো গায়ে জড়িয়ে পাগল করেছে মেয়েটি আমাকে পাগল করেছে চলে যাবার সে সময় কেন তাকালে আকাশে উড়াল মেরেছে আদরের ময়না পাখি পাখি যাচ্ছে উড়ে আকাশে উড়াল মেরেছে আদরের ময়না পাখি পাখি যাচ্ছে উড়ে পাগল করেছে মেয়েটি আমাকে পাগল করেছে চলে যাবার সে সময় কেন তাকালে মিষ্টি মুখে চোখের চাউনি আমাকে পাগল করেছে পাগল করেছে মেয়েটি আমাকে পাগল যাবার সে সময় কেন তাকালে চলে যাবার সে সময়